It's Dan Shoemate.
Oh, Dan. Hey, Dan. Oh, you're able to join us. Fantastic. I
Yep,
wasn't sure if you would or not.
I'm driving now,
Oh,
and I'll probably be able to stay on for about 30 minutes, hopefully. But I don't know how the service is going to be because I'm in the middle of nowhere.
okay. Well, while I have you, I want to first of all I want to kind of review the progress that we made. I start with a clean slate on each call, and sometimes we forget what we've actually done. And it's really quite a bit. And I'm really talking about with the students. Robert and Victor have done a lot of actual have I don't want to say just really contributed to this recently. Daniel, I want to get you more involved. And I think as we move into migrating this solution into a standalone application, right? Does everybody understand what that really is?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So it's a solution under the sales application right now, which means that by definition, it sort of it carries all of the functionality that normally would reside in a sales application. What we want is to get rid of all of that attendant stuff. So we've got a clean app that really is focused entirely on what Dan and Carol need. Dan in particular, and in fact, Robert has I think he's made the greatest strides in terms of building something from the ground up. So our approach right now is really to sort of strip away, to sort of live under the umbrella of the sales app and then strip away everything that we need, or we don't need, I'm sorry, and then leave only what we need and then migrate it, make it a standalone app. Now, it may very well be that if Robert wants to fiddle around with this a little bit more, that he's able to replicate by starting with a clean slate exactly what we need. But for right now, I'm more comfortable, I think, with what we have that's overbuilt, right? And because I know that what we have works, right? So. And again, Robert, I absolutely would encourage you to see if you can build that from the ground up. But I think there's a lot of stuff that we may miss that I'm a little bit, I'm not real sure of. But keep at it because I think you're going to show us all, the benefits of starting from scratch, which I think is really a laudable alternative. Okay, let's see. We had. Another caller. Was that you, Victor?
Yes, John. Good morning, everybody.
Hey, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. So in terms of today, what I wanted to do was, sort of. It sounds like everybody's able to access the development environment. Daniel and I had a short conversation about that, and I'm going to encourage you, Daniel, to spend a lot more time there. In terms of what I think the big next step for us, there's two steps. One is to finally migrate this into its own app, and so we've got a standalone Vets app. Robert, I would ask you to tag the app that's called Vets as yours. In other words, put your brand on it, Vets RF or something like that, just like Victor has done.
Okay, actually, yesterday, so I built a new environment, right? So I was trying to kind of avoid any kind of conflicts with changes I make in the existing solution. So I created a new app as kind of an island, but it's still within that Contoso environment. So yesterday I created an entirely new environment, and I've just been kind of trying to recreate some of the asks that we've been doing. For example, the subgrid, which shows positions that an applicant applied to, and then within a position, all the applicants that applied to it. So I could just remove the Vets app as it is, because the military affairs solution that exists already that can be imported and it into a brand new app and then mapped or designed in a way that makes a lot more sense instead of saying like, opportunities, accounts, leads, and so on. It has more to do with the actual entities in the solution. So yeah, I mean, I could remove that and then keep messing about in the. I have a new environment. It's called testing, and I can change that name to like testing RF or something like that, though. I mean,
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure that the vet's name is available for when we move what we have over into an application, and it's unambiguous that that is the target, the development environment.
oh, okay, yeah, okay, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
so I mean,
Yeah,
you can certainly change the name or something like that, but I want to make sure that everybody understands that vets is the production environment. And because we are going to be migrating this thing. And then the next big thing that we want to do while we still have Dan on the phone is to get the data, to start to normalize the data, or rather to prepare the data for migration into the app for upload. So what we would need from you, Dan, and I think in the interest of sensitivity and whatnot, what we will, well, let's see. What I would like is, I think you sent us the spreadsheet headers that we would be using, right? For which you have data, correct?
Yeah, you should have one of them in there that I want to say was titled partner information that I sent over. And it's really just, I mean, we have a spreadsheet with approximately 750 contacts, most of them at different companies. And basically, it's just going to be whether or not they have access to our hiring portal, the company name, their first and last name, email address, title or position, and then a column for notes about them. And I think right now that whole notes column is blank because that was something I added, but I'm taking notes separately from there. So um, you should have kind of the outline of that, and really all it is just information about individuals.
Well, maybe what you could do, I just want to make sure that we, kind of maintain, we kind of maintain the sensitivity of the information itself. But I'm wondering if you can send just to me a long enough list so we know what the data looks like and what we need to do in order to clean it, right? Because there's going to be some formatting issues, no doubt. There's going to be some mapping issues. And so I think if we can, now at some point we're going to be uploading the whole data set, but we need enough of a sample size to make sure that our import procedures, the whole sort of data migration process will work for the whole. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. I mean, so I can send you over. I mean, we already have the NDAs in place and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. If you want to send the whole file to me, then what we can do is, we can work within the team and essentially work to make sure that it is in good shape. And, we're going to want to add, we may want to add some files. So, for example, subcategories or things like that where it might be convenient, or like regions, right? So if you already have the zip codes, that's going to be enough to match employers to to candidates. And I would really recommend, we're not going to get it done on this iteration, but I would really recommend using zip codes rather than, for example, regions or names or things like that. Zips are definitive, and you can use a geolocation with zips to kind of zero in on who, where the good matches are. So I'm anticipating that. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you mean for the employees within the companies we're working with?
No, really for where the jobs are, right? So
Okay.
each job order will have a zip code where the job is located. If it's like you are, like you're remote, we've got 99999 for the zip code, right?
Okay.
And the same thing for the job order. But I mean, ideally, you can later on. What we're trying to anticipate is that you'd be able to write a routine that says, "Hey, look, find all the job opportunities within 25 miles of this candidate," or vice versa.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's really where I want to get you to, rather than say, "Oh, they live in Topeka, Kansas." Well,
Right.
okay. What if there's some suburb of Kansas that is right near Topeka? Well, you're not going to catch that unless you know. So yeah, zips are the way to go, and that's why I
Right.
really focused on that. But if you can send me that database, and then we're going to have to get with Carol pretty quickly to get because I think that's going to be actually a harder issue with
Right.
uploading the veteran stuff. But the good news is
It just for transparency on that, I'm having a hard enough issue getting that stuff from Carol, and she was talking about using this platform in like September timeframe. So I don't know that she's even going to provide the raw data until a future,
okay. Well,
iteration thing.
that's okay. We can sort of if that's her choice, that's fine. We can we can load it with dummy data in the meantime to make sure that it all works the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, and I'm trying to at least get some dummy data of the real fields that they're already tracking. So I'm trying to get you something there. It's just a matter of she's traveling a lot right now, and having that conversation's been tough. So not to mention she
Okay.
doesn't share data very easily.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have to check with John Cassar to. I think it's a fairly easy matter to migrate this application. Now, this is where there's some really good assignments for all of us on the phone. I guess Sarita would be included as well, although maybe her assignments are going to have to be a little bit more basic because, well, we'll see. But I do have a number of things that can be done, and I think under the general, guiding principles or the rules of engagement, if you will, that we want to make sure we're not colliding with anything, right? So we've got this thing basically working within a context that has a lot more functionality than we need, right? We all agree on that. And that what we're trying to do is basically isolate what we have and what we need and move that over into its own environment so that we can, kind of work with it standalone. But for right now, I think there's some things that we can absolutely do. I think if you can you see you see the screen there. I have the bear with me. Yeah, so I have the items from Monday, and I have eliminated all of the ones that were on this for today. But it just gives you an idea of what we had in front of us, that when I replace it with today's agenda, you can see it's a lot cleaner. We've actually done a lot. And so I have here some assignments, some new assignments that we could take on, and I'll invite people to sign up for them. They're assignments that I don't think really pose any kind of a risk for us sort of bumping into each other, stepping on each other's toes. I think they're all pretty much, we're taking stuff away. We're adding something here and there, eliminating some errors and things like that. But I don't think it's going to affect the migration. Now, so you see here that I've escalated some of these tasks to the learning coaches. One, of course, is to promote the solution to an app status. We've talked about that. The next one has been outstanding there for quite some time, and that is essentially how we can change the form to reflect the contact type. Does anybody not understand what we're referring to? Okay, so that's something that John Kassar has been puzzling over, and Julie Yak, when she gets back, hopefully she'll join us on Friday, and we'll be able to figure that out. But I think that's in the context of both John and Julie being really, really clear about do not create two contact entities. We got to use the same contact entity for a lot of reasons that hopefully you now appreciate.
John, I'll take that. I'll take that piece.
All right, what piece is that?
To try to reflect, try to have the forms reflect that if it's a contact type candidate, that it only shows those contacts on the candidate form, and if it's a contact type employer, it only shows those contacts on that form.
Okay, well look, if you
want to dole out, or you're gonna.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know this is so John Kassar hasn't been able to figure it out, all right, and I mean, let's put it this way, he hasn't spent time on it, but look, if you're willing to research it, Victor, I'm going to put it here as a VR. Yeah, let me just put this here, and then just say that you've got our fallback is with John and Julie. Wait, did I see? Yeah, okay. So this is a little bit, all right, I brought it back down into the student environment, but let's stipulate that you're going to do research on it. You're not going to sort of actually do anything until we all agree that it's okay and that it's not irreversible.
Oh, I've already done the research, John, but I could hold off anyway.
Oh, well, look, okay, I'll tell you what, let's, beautiful. Let's hold that for just a minute, and maybe we can talk about that, because I think that's really a key piece we're going to need to know how to do, not just here, but as you move forward. This idea of, you know, contact types, you know, I think is really, really key concept. And I don't think there's very many, but the very most basic kinds of implementations that would be possible without the ability to do that. So that's I didn't realize you'd gone that far. So yeah, let's we'll talk about it, or I'll show you, or we could look at it later. But I completely understand. We don't want to. I was the same way with, you know, I'm like, let's make sure that we're working to the point where we don't make anything worse. Yeah, right, exactly. I get it. Yeah. Yeah, let's just check with each other for control purposes. I will be the you know, the guy, the primary guy. If you know, on most of these things, you can go ahead and go in there and tinker around, because it's not going to affect other parts of the application. But if you're in doubt about it, check with me. All right, and run things through me before you actually do something that you have any inkling of a idea that might cause problems. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of run through these student assignments and see. So Victor, thank you for, we'll come back to this. I think it's worth talking about today. Here's a fix. So here's something for somebody. When I do a quick create, actually I'll show you what I'm talking about here. I think it'd be easier if I do that. Okay. So if I go to quick create in, I was just in this contact view here, but if I go to an employer, or let's say a site, okay, now here's, here's another issue here is that I don't know how to get to the sites view. There's nothing here that shows me that, that I can't go to the site entity. Does anybody have any ideas how I can get there from here?
Yeah, John, that's as far as I know, what you were looking at is the sales app. So all of
Right.
the items on the left are going to be whatever the sales app has inherently. Now, I haven't tried it, but like when I was creating a brand new app, there's an entirely separate screen where you can kind of create a map of the site. So if you wanted to add like, a candidate's selection on the left-hand side, like between my work and customers, for example, you could do so. So if you had a sites object that you wanted to include as a separate kind of view, you can do that. Or you can include it in any of these items. When you say sites, is that an entity?
Yeah, sites is an entity. What I'm going to do, I'll go here and basically say, so if I pick I think I've got Dan Shoemate as a site manager, and I think right, so he's contact type MSSA. So I did create a third contact type just to say, okay, this is an internal type. Now I don't know, we may want to get rid of it. So, but just a placeholder. He is shown here as a candidate, right? Even though he's contact type, he's a candidate. And let's see. Okay, I've got. Well, I wanted to come back to sites, and maybe by just going backward, I can do this to find a site that.
Like that, the website there for SampleCo?
No. I'm talking about a training site.
Okay, all right.
Sorry. Yeah, that's a little ambiguous. So training sites. Remember, and so this first assignment has to do with that. I just want to get back to that. All right. Let me just go back. Yeah. Again, once this goes into goes into the application, we'll be able to have those customized views over on the left.
Yeah, and there's a few different ways to do it. Like at the very lower, all the way at the bottom left where it says sales, and there's like a little arrow at the very bottom, right above your Windows kind of menu.
Oh, here? Yeah.
Yeah, you click that, you'll see if you click training, maybe that'll have it. But essentially it'll switch what the menu on the left even has.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Training is just going to be help, settings, processes.
Yeah, and again, these are all kind of the native, kind of organic functions of the sales.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. That's very helpful. I understand now. So it's kind of weird, but let me see here. Oh, training. I know. Okay, I think we can go back to. I'm going to go back into sales here, and then I'm going to go to contacts, and I think there's at least one. So what I've done, if I go to, I've created a view here. I can't change my active contacts, by the way. For some reason, that view is not available to me. Now, active contacts, I was able to do, and you'll see here that I have contact type is one of the column headings. Now, if I click on that, you'll see that it organizes it in terms of the value here, right? So it shows that you've got, all right, other test contact. We got some MSSA. We got employer contact. I think if we go to Genghis Khan here, it'll show that he has a training where his training site is, and so we can click on that guy. MSSA is where it is. Oh, you know what? Okay. Here's what we can do. We can go to we can create it, and then we can click on that. There you go. We get that from a lookup. That's a lookup table. So we go to the Fort. So this is the training site, and it's a different entity. And of course, you can tell what kinds of relations do we have and do we want to have on this. I mean, why do we have this as a separate entity rather than as a drop down on the?
I mean, if you're asking everyone, my best guess is that training sites can probably change, right? So a drop down adding and removing options would be a lot more intensive than adding or removing entities.
Yeah, pretty close. It's because well, not only can they change, but those records have changing information as well, right? You've got an education partner that you want to that would be a drop down because it's specific to that training institution, right? You've got the site name, you've got the site code, which by the way is going to be used to generate a cohort ID. Okay, cohort ID is a combination of the site plus probably a number, cohort 1, 2, 3, and it corresponds with, again, it's the class, basically. It's which class. So that's going to be a unique identifier, and that's going to be generated most likely by, it could be, it's going to be, the site code is always going to be fixed. So it's probably FC dash something, right? So the other reason that I think having a separate entity is it allows us to create a related list, a grid that says, okay, who are the current students that are involved? All right, now, so it gives you who are the students that are right now in the current training course at that training site. Now I realize that's outside of the scope of this, but if we can, I don't know, if one of you wants to sort of take this on and say add this, essentially take the training site where a veteran is. So if we go to for example, we can say, oh, this is a list of, there's only going to be about 20 students at any one time, right? It's not going to be a long list, but you'll have essentially the information here for them, and then you can click on the person, and this is more of a Carol thing, I would think, but then you can click on the person, and here you get all of her information, right? The candidate, hopefully the MSSA, yeah, Fort Carson, right? So you've got all you click right to her, and you can then say, okay, here's the list of candidates that are in this resume release date window because they're in the class right now. So it's a real handy way of going to one of 15 training sites and say, okay, who's coming out right now? Okay, here's a site manager, and we can go to the students, and this list will be, like I say, 15 to 20 maybe. You can go to the student and say, oh, okay, here's a student that's in the same zip code as an employer, and you just go right to that. Right, so the MSSA, in the portion of this candidate, you're going to have a cohort ID, right? And this is going to be, like I say, FC, let's say FC, 3. So it's Fort Carson 3, and that uniquely identifies where that person was or is trained and which cohort she was in. All right, you can select a path, and of course you're going to have her zip code, right? 77402, let's say, and so you're going to have potentially the opportunity to match this person up just in time with job opportunities that are local to her. right? So so that's the idea.
But you want the site entity listed, like you want to be able to see just a list of the site entities by clicking like an item on the left-hand column, like the far left menu.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Now we may have to wait until until we can migrate. Now maybe that's something that one of you guys has some idea about how to do, right? Taking what we have and moving it into its own application space. John said, it was fairly straightforward that, I was assuming I would need John Kassar to do this for us. But I'm just really afraid of doing anything at this point that might compromise what we have.
Yeah, I've looked a little bit into it. Just when creating a new app, there are a few items that'll ask what you want to add, right? Like an entity, a dashboard, and one of them is existing solution. So it seems like it should be pretty straightforward, although, I'm not sure exactly what it'll look like, because this is a pretty robust solution with a lot of different components. So I'm not sure exactly how that would be mapped.
Well,
I mean, I could fiddle with it, but
we have basically five key components. We got obviously the account entity, which we're calling employers. We have the contact and account. Those are the standard objects, and they're native, right? So, but then the new ones that we have are job apps, job orders, and training sites. Oh, and activity is going to be incorporated in here. That's a standard object also. So it's not. You're right. There's a lot of components. There's a lot of sort of lookups and related lists and things like that. But maybe it's a matter of you can leave everything untouched and still move a subset of what we have here into that application environment without disturbing anything. I don't know if that's true or not, but if that's the case, then we can at least move it into the app, a nice clean environment, and then test that. If that works, then we can just say leave this one behind as version 1.
yeah, well, that's the thing. Like these entities, right? Like the job applications, job order, even the native ones, the contact and employer. Like when I was creating a new app, if I added a contact entity to it, it would be this contact entity. It would have all the fields that were customized for this solution. So, I mean, I'm not sure, but it's an important thing to know, right? Because in certain circumstances, like a potential employer, they only create solutions. From what I've read, anyhow, there are certain entities that if they're creating 365 apps, they're just creating solutions. And then those solutions can be kind of included for, an end user. The only real, like, I don't know what happens if you import a solution to an app, because you can create an app as it is and add all of these entities by itself. So, I mean, that's why I said it's like I feel like I could fiddle around with it for sure just to learn a bit more about it, but there's certainly a knowledge gap on my end. I have some, but
Well, let's just I'll get John Kassar to just move this over, and we'll figure out, we'll learn how to do this later for somebody else. But I think we what we've learned, or I have anyway, is that it probably would have been much easier to create this from a clean slate than to create it within this sales app, because it's really not a sales app. It's not like any you know, any sort of commonly used app. I mean, it probably is, but you know what we've done. I mean, essentially, we haven't really used any of the sales functionality, which was kind of the idea. Was okay, take advantage of what's already there, but we didn't really do that.
Yeah, I think it's still possible. Like a lot of things, like the maps, like if you enter like the address fields, especially like when I was creating new entities, like creating an address field was like the ones that are native to the actual contacts in the sale. Like this are way more robust. Like they actually have what you'd expect from an address field, whereas the ones I created, it was basically just, you know, blank lines that you'd enter, whatever. So it's not all bad. I think the real challenge is going to be what Victor volunteered to do, the kind of one contact entity, but two separate like views. And I'd be curious to see how that.
Well, maybe we can go into that, Victor. I think that's so central to what we're trying to do here. I think probably we can let's put on hold the student assignments and kind of go into what you've found and what you think the solution is.
Sure. You wanna do it, or you wanna give me the screen, and I'll just show you what's on my mind.
Yeah, I'll give you the screen. Let me.
I'll request it.
Let me do this here. Okay. All right, you got the screen.
Okay, so what I did was kind of like you're discussing. You know, I made a new environment for myself so it wouldn't touch this, and in that environment, I was able to change the views. So when we come here to our component entities, the views show up under contact, and what I think we need to do is go to the views and then determine from the views, which are here, which of these views use which of the forms, or the forms that we want, because we've already see that we've got somebody. So we've got a contacts, our candidates all, candidates current. So we know that those should be the ones we're looking at when we look at the candidates. Active contacts and all contacts appears to want to work on all contacts because they haven't been isolated yet to either an employer or a candidate. But then this one here is the employer contacts all. We probably want to make an employer contacts current also. So these views, to the best of my knowledge, and like Robert said, there's always a knowledge gap, and even people that have been working with this for years will say that there's a lot they still don't know, at least from what I've read. So
And they keep updating it.
What's that?
And they keep updating it. Like the engineers making 365 keep changing things, and
Yeah,
I've just noticed that in a short time.
Yeah. Did you notice you could turn on things that say use the new admin environment, or use the new, use the legacy, or yeah, that's right. So just when you think you've got it, they're going to change it for you.
Yep.
So just to your point, by the way, I did create this list view here, and the reason I made there's a distinction between candidates all and candidates current. Current candidates obviously are those that are within 30 days of graduating or whatever. Candidates all would be a much larger list. It would be a couple of thousand people that you might want to look at. Now,
did you set filters on
employer by definition, the employers are going to be, it's either, yeah. So to me, the reason I created this list is that's you're going to create a lot more as you go. But that's why I did the bare essentials here, and that's what I kind of yeah. Now this is where we need to prune and really kind of strip away all of this other stuff. I think is what's going to happen when we move to the app, right? But you've got all these other things that are completely extraneous, superfluous.
Right, and those are Those are tricky. Those are tricky, and those are, yeah. I
Well,
want.
tell us, okay,
Yeah. So yeah.
so
Those
assuming
are
we can
tricky.
strip these away, right? Partner contacts, et cetera, assuming that those are going to go away, tell us how you're going to, simply by keying off of the contact type, that you'll be able to show the correct form.
Okay, yeah. So let's take a look. So let's look at Genghis Khan. We know is a KHAN, I presume. There we go. So when we're looking at Genghis, where's that trigger field that says whether he's employer or candidate?
Then the header.
Oh, that's actually in the header. I moved it to the header.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in the header in
Okay.
both types. Yeah.
So it's called contact type. Okay. Yep. So this one, now we also want to make sure that when we're here looking at this form that we're looking at, see, we wouldn't want to select the employer form when we know we're looking at a candidate.
No. Right.
So
we want to select the candidate form when the contact type is a candidate, period.
Right. So, and it looks like we're looking at the candidate form already. So
if you change the contact type, the form doesn't change, and it should.
Yeah. We'll hopefully the views automatically change that for you. But let's focus then on what we know is called here the candidate form. So we'll go over here to the views, and there's not a view called candidate. So
Well, there is.
not sure.
There's two of them, two views.
Well, no, it's not called just candidates.
Well, yeah.
But anyway,
so I don't know.
In other words,
okay, go ahead.
Because there's, like, if you didn't have any views here, John, they still may be connected. There still may be data connected to these forms. Here's the form only called candidate, and I'm not sure exactly how you tie a view to a particular form, or if it knows somehow. But anyway, let me show you what I think I know. Okay, so let's just go to candidates all, double click on this view, and see if I remember how to dive into the filters for the view. So
well,
right
you've
already edited the filter criteria?
Yeah, I've already filtered it, right? And it just basically says a candidate contact type equals candidate. So I'm not concerned about, Victor, I'm not concerned about the view. I'm concerned about coordinating the form with the type. It has nothing to do with the view. The view is easy because you just filter it.
So
I'm sorry to interrupt,
so in other words, the easy solution doesn't work. So that's what I thought was going to do it, and
It's part of the solution, but it's not the full solution.
Well, so then
here's what, going back, Victor. Sorry, we got a lot of stuff to cover, so I'm sorry if I'm rushing through this. But if you go back to the form, the actual contact form at Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
The next one over. Yeah. No, the actual, there you go. Yeah. Now go up and change that contact type. No, go contact type, change that field to employer contact. All right. See, nothing happens.
And it doesn't change.
Now go back to candidate, to the contact, to the view, and change that to contact. All right. Now you see then again too the employer, or if you change it back. In other words, I would like for it so that if either changes, I'm sorry, you should be able to view any contact using any form. You should be able to do that. But the contact type, the value in that field should determine which form gets presented.
No, I get it.
Okay. And the viewed has nothing to do with it. The view has nothing. The view has nothing to do with it. Because
So
that's simply a filter. That's simply a filter.
Well, so when I was testing in my environment, which we're seeing here, I've got contacts here. See, I've got an employer section, and then down here I've got a veterans section. I was able to adjust my view so that when I look at my active contacts here under what I call contacts, vets, contacts, then Compoop, first one, Robert Smith, Bill, this only shows contacts that are indicated as candidates.
Okay,
and then when
click on one of those.
Change to employer and I go to contacts.
Yeah.
You see that I see Vince Rondell, Victor Roselli.
Click on one of those. Click on one of those contacts. All right. Now go to the drop down. Oh, I see. Okay, you've got a different view. Go to the if you say it's a candidate type of contact.
Yeah,
you don't have a view for that.
I locked in a view. I locked in a form or whatever for contact employer. So that, and then I locked in one over here for where I have vets, and I click on one. It should say, so contact vet.
Okay, so you've got contact vet. Now, do me a favor.
Yep.
So it's a contact type. Go ahead and change the contact type down below. Yeah, change it to employer or whatever it is that you change. Okay.
I just did, yeah.
All right. So now you still see that it's a veteran contact form.
Well, now I don't know how long it takes. There's no save button here, which is interesting. So I'm not sure that it
refresh.
Yeah, you can just go to the next.
Refresh, like he said, refresh. So I'm presuming it'll go away, but let's see. Yeah, so it still locks it in, but I presume if I hit contacts, now it went away. So it's just a matter of.
Well, it did, but here, look, Victor, please, understand that what you're referring to here is the views. So in other words, what are you going to see? You're going to see something based on the filter that you created, which says only show me the veteran contact types. What I'm talking about is the form that you see when you go to an individual contact. When you go to that contact, that's the form that you see is going to be determined by the contact type.
Right.
It has nothing to do with views.
In ours, though, however, when you hit contacts, I think you're going to see when you go to all contacts. Well, of course you would see all contacts when you go to all contacts.
Yeah, but stay out of, get away from views. You're in views. It has nothing to do with the views. Nothing. It has to do with what determines the form. That the form that gets viewed should be determined by the contact type.
Yeah, okay, so I don't know. I don't know how to tie that in. Which it would be nice if I don't know how to do. Well, it's.
I think, Victor, I think what you had in your test environment was correct. You separated the forms by different areas within the app. So if you're in just the employer area, right? Like right now you're in the vets area. Yep. If you go to employer and create new, it should bring up the whatever form is associated with this area, right? And then it's same for vets. If you're in the vets area and you create new, it would be the form for creating a new veteran contact, which is right. And then I think the next hurdle is kind of restricting who has access to which area, right? So like, because again, there's going to be two separate users. One's going to be the Carol dealing with the veterans. One's going to be Dan dealing with the employers. So restricting who can access these veteran contacts and employer contacts is kind of like the next step in the total solution. Am I making sense?
Yes. And John, I understand. John, that's where I've got knowledge gap, is how to connect the views then, which you would expect a way to tie the view to the form, but I don't know what
No,
that is.
but we're not. No. We're again. Forget about views completely. Forget about views. We're talking. Go to the form.
Again, this is just a matter of semantics, John. But the views are part of an entity under our contact entity, where the forms are. So they are in I mean, I'm a novice,
they're part of the.
but I presume that these views are all connected to these forms somehow.
Well, they're basically defined by the values that are in that record. They're strictly filters. They're filters that determine the list that you see. They have nothing to do with the form. I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry.
John.
I'm sounding impatient. I know I am. But look, what you want to do, and maybe you go back to the working app, because I think that's going to be a lot more illustrative of what we need to do.
Well, I don't know. With all this, it seems to me now, with the way that it's being used and with all of its built-in features, I don't know if there'll be a way. Okay. Without there probably is, but we probably have to use what's called.
There is a way. There is a way. Julie
rules, I guess.
Yeah, Julie has said there is a way, but it's going to take a while to. She wants to wait till she gets back from Hawaii to show us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but look, I want to, in the interest of
go ahead, take the screen, John. I get it. Yeah, I thought it was simple, because in my app it was. Well, but again, it's only showing, but it's not connected. But it's not connected to the form. Although in mine, when I do a new one,
it's connected to the.
It does show the form.
It's because it's a separate area, like that drop-down menu in the lower left. That's key. That's why it's different from the sales app, because it's all built off of the same contacts kind of area within the app.
It doesn't matter what app we're in. It doesn't matter what app we're in. What we're looking to do is to basically, it's really simple. It's say, when you determine the contact type, is it an employer contact or is it a candidate? That should be the determinant of which form for that particular contact record gets used.
Well, when you do new though, John, it'll never know which new one
no, it won't. You're going to have to tell it. You're going to have to tell it. Okay, which contact type is this going to be? And then you say, well, it's either a candidate or it's an employer contact.
Right. And then so you'll have to have like a first.
Create
you have to have a first. Right. So you'll have to ask a question first. What kind of new one are you adding?
You got it. You got it. And then it'll present that form for that new account, new record creation.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how Julie does that, because the way Victor did it makes sense to me. But if you're just looking at a contact, click new, and then you select the form from there, that'd be interesting to see how to get 365 to do that.
Well, I do know, and John Cassar is not on the call, so I can mention Salesforce, but Salesforce has something called record types. And you absolutely, without record types, I don't know how we'd be able to build what we have built. And so there's got to be a way in Microsoft to basically declare what kind of a contact type it is. And you can always change the contact type, right? But when you do, it's going to basically show you the appropriate form, right? Because you don't need to know. For an employer, you don't need all the information you need for a candidate. And that's
actually, yeah, that raises a good point. If we go back to the statement of work, would that functionality even be needed, right? Because two separate users are going to be working with veteran info and employer info. So there's not going to be one user who would need to select employer or veteran. If Dan's using it, and he clicks new, it's always going to be a new employer contact. If Carol's using it and clicks new, it's always going to be a new veteran contact, as far as my understanding goes.
Yes, yes, and you can determine. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think, and look, you're right. It's if she's, you can have it user driven, and you should have it user driven, and you can do that. I'd be shocked if you can't. But let's say, you know, and I guess, you know, we're part of this is for the learning value, you know, to kind of figure out, look, in the real world, you're going to have different users wanting to access different user contact types or record types. So if we don't get this thing solved, that's okay. But well, here's the other thing too, is that, you know, you do want to have these contacts in the same base, because you've got that connection between employers and candidates by way of the job orders and applications. And you're going to want to have that for sure.
Yeah, and that's a separate entity. So
Yeah, Julie's. Yeah, John. No, John, you didn't get testy. I mean, I know you. Time is pressing, and there's unanswered needs to get done. But I see what, and I know what you're saying. That was the views. In other words, whatever is showing is one thing, and then when you click new and then enter a form, that's a second thing altogether. So I'm stumped just like the rest of us. Would love Julie's help. If she's here, if she's on Oahu, she could come by and work at my office.
Well, you know, she's got, I think she's got a son or daughter or something like that that's stationed over there.
Oh, that she might be at Pearl, which is 4 miles from my house.
Well, I can.
In any case, yeah, when she comes back, she'll show us. But I completely understand, and the way that I had set it up, it's just a little bit different. I would love for Robert and I to do like you asked earlier, see if Robert could move everything into like its own sterile, completely separate environment. If he and I could work and do that, maybe using some of this, well, we don't want to waste time doing it in a different place like I had with different vets area and employer area. So yeah, I don't, with it the way it is, we're going to need, yeah, I think, right. Unless it's business rules, John. I'm looking at this business rules. This looks like something that we're probably going to have to use, because when I click new, it shows like a process flow, like something that happens, and then if this, then do this, or if something else, do something else. But that's beyond. I get it, John. Is there anything? Yeah, I get it. I'm sorry I can't help any further. I was hoping
you can incorporate that.
easy filter.
Yeah, you can
Look,
incorporate.
I want to make sure that we all kind of like get how the whole thing hangs together, and so I don't want to sort of glide over it. But I mean, does everybody understand now the difference between the views and the forms? I mean, as far as what their function is, and right. So a view is a list. A view is a list. That's all it is, and it's a filtered list. It's like in Excel, right? You basically filter it. You say, these are out of the whole set of records that I have. Here are the ones I want to see, and that's it. Period. The form is the individual what you see for any given contact. You know, you've got 350 different fields. Well, hell, you don't want all of those on the form, and you're going to select different fields for different, you know, the relationship that you have with that contact type. In the case of candidates and employers, it's very, very different kinds of relationships, obviously. So there's you know, the kind of information you want to show on that form is very different, right? So we have to find a way, and you know, I think part of it is we have the luxury of because we've got so many brains working on this, but also it's a fantastic learning opportunity if we can deliver that, right? Some of this extra stuff. Hey, so much the better. And if we can get some learning out of it, even better yet. So the things you're looking at now, I mean, basically, really, we just have a candidate and a contact. I don't even know what contact web form is or anything like that, but well, I think I know what it is. But really, those are the two, candidate and contact, and that's what we want to focus on. Yeah, there you go. Okay.
And you probably can't even delete these. These are probably system generated that you can't remove.
No, you can. You can. You can delete it.
Should I try?
Sure, you could. I don't know what's going to take away. Yeah, so you can confirm the deletion. Yeah, it's basically a form. Again, is just a form by itself. I doubt is ever really going to have it's not. It doesn't have dependencies. It's just a window into a select bit of information. You can recreate it or you can take it away. I mean, I don't see any reason you couldn't. So, okay, so let's make sure that that what we each end up doing is doesn't conflict with what we have right now. Robert, I like what you're doing. Again, I think we're too far along in this really to try to switch horses unless maybe you've been able to replicate it totally. But I've done a bunch of stuff that it would be hard. I don't know.
There'd be no need really. It's, I think, creating a new app and you can take the pieces that have already been built in this solution and add them to that app to kind of recreate the functionality you have in the sales app, except instead of saying sales, it says what you want it to, right? So it looks a bit more like, the app that you're designing rather than kind of like a plugin for the sales app or whatnot.
Exactly. Yeah. And it sounded, Victor, it sounded to me like you guys, you were inviting Robert to see if maybe you guys could figure that out. In other words, if you can pull out from this solution what we need for the app and still without destroying anything, in your wake, that might be, if you can do that and pull all those components that we need, the essential components into that app, that would be fantastic. Then now we don't have all this other extraneous, stuff to work with.
Are we pulling out the sales, this collateral, this marketing,
Yes.
these goals? Do we want all that out of this left side navigation panel?
We don't want any of it. We don't want any of it. All we want, Victor, all we really want is those, what do you have here? Oh, wow, you still have the marketing dashboard on there. How's that? Huh, I don't have it in mine. I don't get that. All right. Well,
I think there's a few ways to do it. You can create a new app and import the existing solution, the military affairs solution, or you can edit the sales app, delete the menus that are there. I think the first option's a bit better.
I do too, because you really don't. Yeah, you don't want to be eliminating stuff that you don't know. I mean, oh gosh, we don't know what dependencies there are. But maybe, is there a way to selectively, in other words, you can take the, I wonder if there's sort of a subset. I don't know. I mean, if you guys want to figure that out, that would be fantastic. I don't know when I'm going to be able to talk to John Kassar. But if you leave, in other words, you're creating like a duplicate that you can sort of experiment with and see if that will do the trick. As long as we have a backup.
Yeah, I mean, we both have separate testing environments. I don't think the solution's accessible from those, but I mean, we could also create like a brand new app that doesn't in the Contoso environment to see if the solution can be imported into that app, and just give it a different name, and it shouldn't really conflict with anything that's already been created.
Victor, does that sound like a plan to you? I mean, you guys want to work on that?
When you say different environment, are you still talking about the CRM 882896 environment?
Yeah, so like with
Or
different
are you talking,
environments,
are
yeah.
you talking about these here?
No, well, environment in context of how 365 uses it. Like, for example, if you're in the kind of creation portal, when you first log in to the Power Apps or whatnot, you're allowed to select what environment you're in. There's like Contoso default. I named mine testing, and then I saw you had 2 environments created, right? So the
Right.
idea, from what I understand with solutions, is like they call them ISVs, like independent software vendor, right? For the most part, they would, if someone wants to create like a program that they want to put up for sale or something, they would create a solution, and then that solution can then be incorporated into whatever apps. So whether an app can be created in the separate environments that we have and this solution incorporated into those, or whether we'd have to go into the Contoso, the 88296, whatever environment to create a brand new app and then incorporate the solution. I don't know. That's something I'd have to kind of like fiddle about with. But yeah, I mean, it's certainly, I think, worth the study.
Yeah, I'd like to work with you on that, Robert. I think that we could figure something. I think we could. Well, John, you want us basically cleaning up seems like something we could work on. Is there anything? I mean, and it seems like we might have some success with cleanup. Is there anything else in addition to cleaning up? Like if we stumble across how to get those forms to display based on what type of contact it is, I know we want that done. Is there anything else besides cleanup and possibly forms by contact type?
Yeah. Let me, because you guys, I think, I have a very strong feeling you're going to kind of discover some stuff that wasn't intended, but that'll be very useful. So I'm just going to sort of, I can post this if you like, but there's, for example, here's one that in the contact quick create, which I now understand is something, it was what comes up when you're in the contact, and it wants you to like look up an account. It looks up a contact record, which is, it's looking up to the wrong record, right? So it's looking up to its own entity, another contact, rather than to the account record.
How do we get there, John? So if I'm at contacts here, where's the quick? Is there a quick...
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were seeing my screen. I'm actually sorry. I'm seeing your screen. If you go to the just go to company name. Click on company name up there. No, company name on the header.
Oh,
okay.
Okay. Well, I could get a company here. A VentureWorks company.
Yeah. So what you want to do now, it's showing you our form for the employer. But if you go now, you want to go to a contact.
Okay.
All right. So Amos. Oh, add new contact. I'm sorry. Yeah. So add new contact. Go ahead and click on the add new contact. That's
This one here.
No,
the
no, no.
new?
Down.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, because this would be a new. That's another thing. Just users using this have to always remember what new thing they're adding. Up if you're up here, this would be a new employer. If you're down here, it's a new contact within the employer.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
got it.
yeah. Exactly. Pretty much. And so add new contact. Just go ahead and click on the add new contact.
Oh, okay. I was wondering if they had a quick create. Okay, add new contact. So
Yeah,
this
see,
comes
now
up.
here's the
This
quick
is
create over here.
automatically. Oh, this we
Well, go
want to
ahead
tie it. Yeah, we don't. We want to. Do we want to have a quick create but have the correct? Do we want to have a quick create or just have it do a regular new contact the way they always are done?
Well, look, let's not worry about that right now. John, or the quick create is there for a reason. Get rid of AdventureWorks as the account name. Just go ahead and get rid of that.
What do you mean?
No. Go ahead and go ahead and create new again, and just yeah, there you go. Yeah. Now go ahead and click on another field anywhere, just so you refresh that. Now go back to account and look for records. See how it has contacts instead of, I mean, it has like all kinds of stuff in there. It's got names of people. What you want is a lookup for accounts, not that also has like people. Click on the look for.
It's showing you, yeah, it's showing you people like Adam, and it's showing you companies like PMG.
I mean, it's showing you. It's. Oh, okay. Go ahead and click on.
If we go to employers or contacts, there you go.
But why would you even want to look at contacts if you're really looking for an account name to put in there? That's what I don't get. Maybe we don't need to worry about it, but it's just another user training issue.
No, it's the form. Yeah, it's the form that's attached to this entity. You can create different quick create forms. So, I mean, you could change like where it says details for, you could have it say like maiden name, right? You could customize it how you want.
Okay.
The lookup, yeah, the lookup field is the tricky part because it's looking up contacts, the contacts entity, which includes employers and veterans. So,
yeah, so this is,
right.
so well, we're back.
Let's not worry about that then. I think we've kind of solved that it's solvable in another way. It's a training issue. So thank you. Yeah, that's a good catch. So we talked about, let's see, let me take the screen back because I just want to show you what these items are.
And here's those quick forms. So they're editable. Okay, John, I'll give it to you.
All right. So, okay, here we go. And then share. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. So these are the basically the things that I have that we were going to go through. That I just want to kind of review this. So we've got Robert and let's see, and Victor Rosselli, right? You're going to promote the solution to its own app, right? I mean, that's what I call it promote, but then it's John Cassar who's basically going to be your backup on this. But is that still something that, yeah, does that make sense? So it sounds like your approach is pretty non-invasive, right? You're going to sort of wholesale copy the thing into an app and then prune back as appropriate.
Yeah, Robert, are you thinking we're going to take it into a different environment altogether and bring in what we need? and hopefully
I'm kind of trying to figure out what's possible. Like, and that's just again based on the training I did. So it seems like a solution is something that is designed to be applicable. Like if someone creates a solution, anybody with Dynamics 365 would be able to kind of use that solution in their version. That's based on my understanding. Now, I don't know if that's the case or not. At the least, we can certainly create a separate, like kind of a new app that utilizes all of the entities that were created in the solution and have them work just the way they do in the solution. But that would be limited to the Contoso environment. So I mean, I want to futz around to see if I can get the solution into the kind of new environment, the trial environment that I created, and Victor has one as well. So if that's possible, otherwise, then it can be done in the existing environment, just for kind of like a prototype, like a functionality. Like here's how the app is going to look to the end user.
Okay, John. Yeah, so there's it's as best as we can. Certainly, we don't want to make anything worse than the exact Contoso environment that we're using now. So if we could siphon off what we need, even if it's within the Contoso environment, it sounds like that's kind of plan A with Robert. Plan B is to see what we could bring into it in a different environment altogether. Okay, but I wrote it down as a solution as its own app, slimmed down, streamlined, and not breaking the current app.
Yeah, exactly. Preserving whatever's there. Now, there are some things I would think. So, for example, there's a whole bunch of extraneous views, and I think that goes along with this business of pulling the whole thing over wholesale and then removing stuff.
Yeah, that's all part of the same thing. Cleaning it up, making it a little more sterile, so that it's not spoke and hub and spoking into a different wild cobweb.
Yeah, and so I went ahead and erased that. I mean, one obvious thing that we're going to want to get rid of, in addition to extraneous entities and other like sales related functionality, is the views. A lot of the views get generated. They're sort of legacy views that are inherited from some sales thing. And, obviously in its own app, we just want to show the views that are pertinent to the use to which this thing is going to be put. And sometimes, like especially in accounts or context, you look at the views and say, oh my God, there's like 20, 30 different views. And we just want to present the views that really are going to be the most common. So that can be part of, once you pull the thing over, we can, that I think is a low impact thing we can do. Not low impact, but it's not going to compromise anything.
Hey, John, I've got to get going here in a minute. I'll be able to come back online in a couple of hours. Do you want to go? Maybe I could sign off. Will you pass along to Robert anything, or let me call you back? I've got to head out now, and then I'll be able to come back on 9:30, 10:30 in about 2 hours my time.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you guys want to work, if you guys want to work on this, pulling the app into, in other words, creating a standalone app, I'll just stay away from this for a while. I'm going to be really turning my attention to the data at this point. Dan's going to send me something, and
you get all the fun stuff.
What's that?
I say you get all the fun stuff. Just kidding.
Well,
data manipulation.
We're learning together, man. I mean, I appreciate how we work together. By now, you know me to get a little bit when I see we're going off track. I get a little, nervous. But thank you for I appreciate your humor on the whole thing. It's in this particular case, I'm really so focused on, I want to get this thing I want to nail this for Microsoft, right? And the closer we get to the deadline of launching this thing, the more, I think the more sort of my focus is going to, you know, turn into, okay, I'm really going to want to pull people back a lot quicker than if we had the leisure of just learning. That's kind of where I'm coming from. I have a pretty definite idea of where I want to go and what needs to be done. Where I need your help, frankly, is how to do what needs to be done. And so we're now getting to the place where, you know, luckily I think we have the basic functionality. Dan is very pleased. And by the way, I will tell you this, that Dan is he was the guy who basically lobbied for this. So it's really for him. And Carol, who's on the veteran side, is really sort of not at all an afterthought, but Dan sort of said, hey, Carol, I'm going to be doing this. I think it would be useful for you. Do you want to participate? Right. So Carol is sort of like not in as much a hurry as Dan is, but this is really going to be mainly for Dan, initially, at least. So I think that's a good piece of information. And he's ultimately, if he's happy, then Microsoft is happy.
Got it. Hey, Robert, I'll circle back with you in a little bit. Guys, thanks. John, I'm going to have to sign out.
Okay, Victor. Sounds good. I'll continue.
Yeah, I'm gonna be kind of offline for most of today. I mean, I'll look into it. And Victor, it seems like you're pretty comfortable with 365, so I think it's just something that we can kind of work on independently for learning purposes, and then kind of sync up later and discuss what we learned.
Okay, and okay, John, what are we looking at by Friday morning? I guess you want what we could get done.
Well, it'd be nice, you know. Yeah, it's Wednesday. I don't know what you could get done. I don't know how quick it's going to be, but yeah, for sure. Before, you know, sometime into tomorrow would be nice, so that I can sort of have something to present and clean up on this end to present on Friday.
Okay, all right.
If that's possible, you know, that'd be great. I have two other things to be done. I know you got to run, Victor. Maybe I can get Daniel or Robert to step up to one of these.
I took a screenshot of this, so
oh, you did?
So yeah, I've got it. Yep.
Okay. Now, but who wants to take this on? These highlighted issues, these two ones.
I can try to do the inherit the site manager email from the related contact record.
Let's see. This is okay. Yeah, that would be great. Now, do you know, Daniel, exactly what I'm referring to?
I could use some elaboration.
Yeah. So let me show you what I have here. Okay, so here's the move this over here. So can you see my screen here?
Yes.
Okay. So, and this is, by the way, this is going to relate to a couple of other things. If we go to the site manager, let's see, how did we get this? Oh yeah, okay, so they're in, I want to go to one of the sites. So we have the training site, and the way I'm getting to this is basically I just go into the MSSA record and basically then look to the training site. If there's not one in here, you can always just go ahead and, you know, or create a new one or whatnot, right? So, but just go into any training site. And then if, let's say we go now to Fort Hood, all right, now Frank Trainer is the site manager. Now that's a contact. So if we click on Frank Trainer, now this is going to be well, he's like an MSSA. He's not really, you know, because he's an employee or Microsoft. Well, let's just call him a contact, regular contact. So that's the form, right? He's MSSA, but he gets this form. So if we look at the email, he doesn't have an email right now, but let's just say ftrainer@gmail.com. Okay. So this guy has a contact. He's going to be a contact. He's going to be a contact of this type. Let's just say, you know, for grins, he's an employer contact. Okay. Now the company, it doesn't really matter, but if we now go to the site, okay, this is the site manager. Let's see here. How did we do this? Yeah, so he's the site manager. Oh, I know. Maybe it's not company name. It's going to be the site, but I think we have to have, instead of company name, we have the site name here. Right, so we have to change that. So that's a lookup to the site, or not a lookup, but yeah, it could be a lookup, but it's just going to be basically, okay, this is the site guy. So basically, okay, as a contact, he's got his name and his email, right? Now, if we go back to the site record, so this is the training site. Oh, okay, I had frank@site.com. Okay, because I entered it. But if you go back to Frank Trainer, all right, it shows you the contact. So let's go back to the contact form, just to refresh that. All right, so you see that, okay, this is ftrainer@gmail.com. Now, if we go back to the site, you see that the email address should be filled in automatically.
Right.
Because it's related to the contact here, but it's not, and I don't know how to do that. But yeah, that's the idea. That's basically what we're trying to do here.
Okay, I'll look into it, see if I can get it done.
Okay, and if you might want to contact, might want to be in communication with Robert and Victor and myself. Just say, look, I'm working on this. I would say that Robert and Victor, before you guys start pulling this thing over, we want to make sure that that Daniel has the opportunity to complete what he's doing.
From what I understand, it shouldn't, like any changes that are made to the solution, either during or after kind of importing it or adding it to a different app, won't really matter. I mean, you can then update the app based on the changes in the solution, but yeah, like Daniel can actually make whatever changes he wants to a specific form or entity within the solution, and it won't really, it shouldn't, again, I'm still learning here, but it shouldn't have any kind of effect on like a brand new app incorporating this solution. Because that's why, if you recall, there's things like patches that can be pushed to, you know, from a solution that can be created based on changes to a solution and stuff. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Does that make sense? I mean, yeah, I mean, I want to figure out how to get a solution into an app. We'll figure out how to do that. But any specific changes within the solution shouldn't be too much of an issue. Daniel, did you take the certification courses that were on the, I think, Microsoft Learning?
I did, but I didn't quite finish them yet. Okay,
yeah, they're super helpful. If you go back to them as references, although I think they're expiring soon. So, but they're super helpful. And then, are you familiar with like documentation? Yes, for like design documentation? That's available as well. So, if you need to know more about like a relationship between entities and so on, Microsoft has it all published. Easily found, and you can kind of understand a bit more about what kind of the ask is in this case.
Okay. All right, well, I got to take off.
Yeah, same here. Unless John has anything else. I know, John, we can't hear you. I'm not sure if you muted yourself on your end or. Okay, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if John's trying to talk or not. But Daniel, I mean, do you feel comfortable with what needs to be done and kind of how to do it, or at least how to get the resources to learn how to do it?
Yes, I do feel comfortable.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, let's take it away. And like the kind of, what is it, learning community, right? That's not a bad place to kind of post questions or updates and so on. And then, we'll reconvene Friday and just kind of go over